All right, so you ever hop into like a Call of Duty lobby and you're just like, how did I end up with these teammates? Well, today we are going to be doing a deep dive all about the code of Call of Duty matchmaking. And we have something really special for you guys. We're actually going behind the scenes with a white paper straight from the developers themselves. And trust me, what they reveal about how those matches are made is going to surprise you.
You're probably thinking that matchmaking is all about, like, pitting players of equal skill against each other, for that ultimate showdown, right?
Yeah, that's what I always thought. Create that level playing field. May the best soldier win.
Yeah, it's a logical assumption, but get ready for a twist. Skill is part of the equation, but it's not the primary factor in driving Call of Duty's matchmaking system.
Wait, seriously. Okay, now I need to know what's going on here. If it's not about creating a pure skill matchup, then what's the secret sauce?
Well, the developers are laser focused on something that they're calling team balance. And they're actually arguing that it's more important than just matching players based purely on their skill.
Team balance. So it's about making sure that the teams are like roughly equal in terms of like overall skill, so you can avoid those matches where one side just absolutely steamrolls the other.
You got it. They're trying to prevent those really frustrating blowouts. The ones that make you want to rage quit and throw your controller across the room.
Oh, I've definitely been on the receiving end of those matches. Not fun at all.
And not just not fun, but actually damaging to the game's health overall. The white paper found that. After a blowout experience, players were 25% less likely to queue for another match.
Wow, 25%. That's way more significant than I would have thought. So, blowouts are bad news. Got it.
But how do they even go about creating this team balance? Is there like a top secret formula they're using? Well, they've actually been running experiments for years, trying to find that sweet spot. And they share some pretty fascinating results from these tests in the white paper.
Ooh, experiments, results. Tell me more.
So, for example, back when Modern Warfare 3rd was the hot new game, they tested what would happen if they loosened skill-based matchmaking. So basically, they widened the range of skills allowed in a single match.
Interesting. So more variety in the lobbies, potentially more unpredictable outcomes? Sounds kind of chaotic, but also fun.
You'd think so, right? But the results were a bit counterintuitive. Loosening skill-based matchmaking actually led to more players quitting, especially among those in the low to mid-skill range. It seems like those players just weren't having fun, getting consistently outmatched.
Huh. That is surprising. You'd think more variety would mean more upsets, more chances for anyone to shine. I guess it proves that feeling like you're at least somewhat on an even playing field is important, even in casual matches.
Exactly. And here's where it gets even more interesting. In another test, they tried tightening skill-based matchmaking.
So the opposite approach, creating lobbies with players of very similar skill levels. What happened then?
Well, as you might expect, it did improve the experience for lower skilled players. They were suddenly holding their own, getting more kills, feeling more competitive. But, and this is the catch, it actually had a negative impact on the high skill players.
There's always a trade-off, isn't there? So what did they do? Was it just a case of picking their poison?
Well, they ultimately decided against making the tightening permanent in Modern Warfare 3rd. Because of that negative impact on some players, it's a real balancing act. You can't make everyone happy all the time. But that's the challenge, right? Finding that sweet spot where most players are having a good time, regardless of their skill level.
This is fascinating stuff. But so far, we've been talking a lot about how matchmaking affects, well, everyone but the top-tier players. What about those Call of Duty veterans? The ones that are always at the top of the leaderboard. Don't they want the challenge of playing against equally skilled opponents?
That's a great question. And the answer might surprise you. A healthy, diverse player base is actually good for elite players in the long run.
Okay, now you've got me really curious. How does that work?
Think about it this way. If less skilled players constantly get crushed and quit, what happens? The only ones left playing are
the highly skilled players. So they're all just playing each other, which means the competition gets even tougher.
Precisely. They create their own super competitive bubble where even the smallest advantage can make a huge difference. And in some of the older Call of Duty games, that's exactly what we see happening.
Wow, that's a great point. I never thought about it that way. It's like by making the game more enjoyable for everyone, you actually end up creating a more challenging and diverse environment for those elite players as well.
Exactly. It's about creating a sustainable ecosystem, a thriving community, where everyone has a reason to keep coming back for more.
This is some seriously deep stuff. And we're just getting started. We'll be right back. tackle some of the most common questions players have about matchmaking. Straight from the source. Stay tuned. All right, so back to our Call of Duty matchmaking deep dive. Before we left off, we were talking about how the game balances teams. And we learned that blowouts really hurt everybody in the long run. So now let's get into some of those burning questions that players always have about matchmaking.
Great idea. The developers actually address several common questions directly in this white paper.
Yeah.
And some of the answers might surprise you.
Hit me with the first one. What's on everyone's mind?
One that comes up a lot is, was playing against higher skilled players make lower skilled players better at the game? You know?
Sort of like a trial by fire.
Yeah, like, oh, are you doomed to stay a noob forever? If you don't get absolutely destroyed by some pro every now and then, does it force you to level up? It's an interesting question. And the developers actually have data on this. It turns out it's a bit more complicated than just get good while playing against better opponents. Can push you to improve. Consistently getting stomped can actually have the opposite effect.
So too much challenge, too often, can actually be discouraging. I can see that. If you never feel like you have a chance, why would you even keep playing?
Exactly. It goes back to that idea we discussed earlier. A good match needs that balance between challenge and fairness. If it's always a brutal beatdown, well, that's not much fun for anyone.
Okay, makes sense. What else are players wondering about?
Here's another one that comes up a lot. Why does Call of Duty measure skill differently between game modes?
I've definitely thought about that.
Yeah.
Like, just because I'm a beast in team deathmatch doesn't mean I'm going to dominate and search and destroy, right? Those are totally different vibes.
Totally. The developers acknowledge that. Different game modes require different skills. You might be incredible at fast-paced action, quick reflexes, aiming, in a mode like team deathmatch, but struggle with the strategy and teamwork and slower pace of something like search and destroy.
So are you saying they actually track your skills separately for each mode? That's pretty wild.
That's right. They want to make sure you're being matched with players of similar skill levels. In the specific mode you're playing, it means. You're encouraged to try out different modes without worrying that your performance in one is going to mess up your matchmaking in another.
That's actually a relief to know. I've been wanting to branch out and try some new modes. But honestly, I've been a little hesitant because I didn't want to mess up my stats or end up in lobbies that are way above my skill level.
And that's exactly what they're trying to avoid. They want players to feel free, to experiment and have fun, regardless of what mode they choose.
Okay, I'm digging this. What other matchmaking mysteries are we uncovering today?
Here's one that's sure to spark some debate. Why is skill even a factor in unranked modes when ranked play exists?
Ooh, good question. Seems like if you want to sweat it out and have a super competitive, purely skill-based experience, you should just hop into ranked play.
We'd think so. And a lot of players feel that way. But the developers have a different perspective. They argue that even in unranked modes, some level of skill consideration is necessary to create balanced matches and a positive experience overall.
So even if I'm just chilling, trying out a new weapon, not really taking things too seriously, they still want to make sure I'm playing with people who are roughly on my level.
Exactly. Remember all that talk about blowouts?
Yeah.
And how much they hurt the community? Well, that applies. Even in casual matches, no one wants to constantly get stomped, even if they're not playing for rank.
That's true. I know I've definitely quit out of some unranked matches when it just felt completely hopeless. And it's not like everyone even plays ranked play, right? Some people just want to unwind and have fun without the pressure.
Exactly. And remember, ranked play has its own specific rules and restrictions. And that's just not everyone's cup of tea. Sometimes. You just want to jump in, shoot some stuff, maybe even try some goofy strategies without worrying about your rank.
All right, I can get behind that. Skill consideration in unranked modes. It's a thumbs up for me.
Yeah.
What else is in the FAQ section?
This next one is a real head-scratcher. Has Call of Duty ever considered launching a purely random matchmaking system where skill doesn't matter at all?
Whoa, now that would be interesting. And maybe totally chaotic. Part of me thinks it'd be fun, just pure randomness. But I can also see how it could be a total disaster.
Right. It's tempting to think, just throw everybody in a big pot and let the chips fall where they may. But the developers have actually explored this, and their data gives them some serious pause.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat here. Tell me what they found.
Well, their testing showed that if they went with a truly random system, low and mid-skill players would be way less likely to stick around. They'd constantly be getting matched against highly skilled players.
Yeah.
Getting crushed. And, well, you know the rest.
Yeah. It wouldn't be pretty. It'd be like throwing a bunch of puppies in with a pack of wolves. Not exactly a recipe for a thriving ecosystem.
Exactly. It would basically become a playground for the elite players, with everybody else getting scared off. Not exactly a sustainable model for a game that wants to appeal to a wide range of players.
Yeah, I can see that. It's like, if you know you're going to get destroyed every time you play, why even bother playing at all?
Exactly. And then you're back to that shrinking player pool problem.
Yeah.
Which, as we discussed, ultimately hurts everyone.
Okay. I'm starting to get a real appreciation for just how complex this whole matchmaking thing is. It's way more than just throwing players together and hoping for the best. There's a real art to it, a balancing act that's constantly evolving.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And there's still so much more to uncover. We have one more big question to tackle.
Ooh, a cliffhanger. All right, listeners, stay tuned for the final part of our Call of Duty matchmaking deep dive. We'll be getting philosophical and pondering the very meaning of a good match. Don't miss it. All right, so welcome back to the final round of our Call of Duty matchmaking deep dive. We've debunked myths, tackled tough questions, and explored how the game tries to balance skill with fairness. But now, let's get a little philosophical.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about, the mechanics of matchmaking. But what about the heart of it all? What actually makes a Call of Duty match truly enjoyable? Is it just about winning? Or is there something more to it?
Well, I'll admit, when I'm in the zone, all I'm thinking about is getting that next kill, securing the objective, leading my team to victory. But yeah, I guess there has to be more to it than that, right? Otherwise, we'd all just be playing against bots, racking up those easy wins, and calling it a day.
Exactly. And this is where the white paper gets really interesting, even though it doesn't give us a clear-cut answer. So think back to what we were discussing earlier about blowouts and how they lead to players quitting. Why does that happen?
I think it's because when you're on the receiving end of a blowout, it just feels hopeless. You feel like you have zero chance, like you're not even really playing the game anymore.
Precisely. So maybe a truly good match isn't just about the final score, but about how the match feels while you're playing it. Maybe it's about everyone feeling like they can contribute, that their actions have meaning, and that there's a sense of tension and uncertainty right up until the very end.
I like that. It's about those moments that get your heart racing, those clutch plays, those times when
the underdog team manages to pull off an upset. Those are the moments that make you want to jump out of your seat and yell at the screen, whether you're winning or losing. Exactly. And those moments, they can't be manufactured by an algorithm alone. They emerge organically from the interactions between players, from the clash of different skill levels and play styles, from the unpredictable nature of the game itself.
So a good match isn't just about the destination, but about the journey. It's about those moments that make you feel alive, that make you want to keep coming back for more, even if you don't always win.
Perfectly put. And if the developers can create a system that consistently fosters those kinds of experiences, well, they've truly achieved something special.
That's a great point. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you all with a little challenge. Next time you jump into a Call of Duty match, try to shift your perspective a bit. Don't just focus on the kill-death ratio or whether you're winning or losing. Pay attention to those moments of brilliance, those close calls, those unexpected twists and turns. Think about what makes the match enjoyable for you, regardless of the final score.
And here's a question for you to ponder.
Yeah.
If you were designing Call of Duty matchmaking, what would you prioritize? Think beyond just skill and fairness. What elements would you add to the system to create an engaging and memorable experience for everyone involved?
That's a great challenge. I know I'm going to be thinking about that a lot. And hey, if any of you listening, come up with any brilliant matchmaking ideas, let us know. We're always up for another deep dive. Until next time, gamers, stay curious, stay engaged, and keep on gaming.